Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Citizens for Vallejo City Council and School Board Forums. The City Council Forum will be first for the first 2 hours, and then the second 2 hours will be the School Board Forum. My name is Paul Norberg, and I'm the treasurer of Citizens for Vallejo. The Citizens for Vallejo Political Action Committee was established in 2010 by Vallejo residents who want to ensure that candidates and incumbents demonstrate leadership qualities that advance the city of Vallejo. If time permits, we will take pre-selected questions from the audience. If you haven't filled out a card and would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll give you a card. If you haven't turned your card in over at the desk over here, please do so now or we'll come around and pick it up from you. Before we get started, please turn off your cell phones if you haven't done so already. We are pleased to see that all 5 of the candidates are here joining us today: Hakeem Brown, Pippin Du Costa, Jess Mogapo, Vincent May, and Katie Meisner. We'd like to thank the Springbrook Masonic Temple for the use of their facilities for this forum, to Mark Garman for providing the sound and videotaping of the event, and for later televising on YouTube. Our moderator this afternoon is Karima Kara. Karima is a Libyan American and a Muslim. She has a BA in International Economics from the American University in Paris, France. She has a law degree from London University. She's lived in Libya, France, England, Monaco, Malaysia, and Morocco. On a good day, she can speak Arabic, English, and French. She's the past president of the Myra Community Cultural Center. She is past president of the California Association of Planning Commissioners, the Solano Grand Jury, the executive committee of the Vallejo Waterfront Festival, and a member of various other clubs and associations in the esoteric as the Mill Valley Cooking Club. She loves a full house, so she and her family entertain quite often. She has 2 twin daughters who are 20 and in college, an English husband who's been married to her forever. She comes from a large family and has 52 first cousins. She is a Gemini and apparently very kind when you get to know her, though on the first inspection it doesn't appear so. She has tons of flaws, but most annoying is she's scrupulously honest. Today's forum will take about 4 hours if you stay for both of them, and we hope you will. The questions were developed by the Citizens for Vallejo board, and none of the questions have been given to any of the candidates in advance. The candidates have drawn random letters to determine the order of their seating. We haven't pre-selected who will get which question. As time is limited, please hold your applause until after the candidates have made their closing statements. Boos are not acceptable. Our timekeepers today are Liat Metzenheimer and Jane Ferrier. Jane will flash a yellow card when you have 15 seconds left and a red card when time is up. Now I'll go over the rules. Each candidate will have the opportunity to respond to 5 general questions, plus 2 lightning round questions. All candidates will be given equal total time, although all candidates will not answer all questions. At the close of the general questions, there will be a lightning round. During this round, all candidates will answer the same question, and each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. As time permits, we will ask pre-selected general questions from the audience. All candidates will answer the same question with 45 seconds to respond. The time limits are firm, so please focus your answers on the questions posed. Please do not interrupt other candidates when one candidate is speaking. Following the question and answer session, each candidate will have the opportunity to make a closing statement, and following the forum, audience members may meet with candidates who choose to stay. Now I'll turn it over to Karima to start the questioning.
Hello. Before we start, do you want to give everybody a big hand? Because it really sucks being up there. Okay, so 2.5 minutes. First question is the elephant in the room. Guess what that is? Okay, are you in favor of Orsum Marine Terminal Project on the waterfront? Why or why not? Jess, shall we start with you?
Thank you for that question. I can't answer definitively where I stand on ORSM because the city attorney's guidance prohibits us. But what I can tell you and tell the public is that we are now at a point where we've authorized funding so that the consultants can complete and certify the final EIR. And then at that point, I believe it's going to come back to City Council for an up or down vote.
Vincent, your turn.
Thank you. I'm going to have to take almost the same approach as Jess did on that, because I don't want to say yay or nay on something that if I get elected, I may have to make a decision on, and I don't want it to come back and bite me. I want to get all the information on it, look at it, and let the experts decide. And the people that I consider experts are the people that live in the neighborhood. So I'm going to go out and talk to the people in the neighborhood, canvass the area, get their opinions. I'm also going to consult with the air quality people and the people that are doing the studies and the surveys. After I get all the information, I want to make a well-informed decision on that. Thank you.
Katie?
Thank you. So this came in front of council last year, or it feels like a longer time. And the planning staff, the planning commission, a cross-section of varied interests in the city of Vallejo all said, no, after the draft EIR, we have enough information. We say no, and the ORSM VMT appealed to the city council, and 4 council members wanted more information. So the original application was more than 1,000 pages. I read them. I might have skimmed over some, because it was a lot of pages. There was a lot of information. So now, because it's an appeal, because the ORSM VMT appealed to the city council, so it's just like if you lose in a lower court, you appeal to the higher court. We are quasi-judicial legislators, and we are the ones that are going to decide on that. And so we have to be objective now and look at it with fresh eyes when it comes to us, probably in January. And I will, again, read what's put in front of me and make the decision that's best for Vallejo and best for the businesses in Vallejo. Thank you.
Hakeem.
So for me, I think
Probably behind us. It's Mark's.
No, I haven't. It's not me.
you guys won't mind if I wait till it stops ringing.
Yeah. And as long as it doesn't tick, we're okay.
Exactly.
Okay, Hakeem, go
Okay.
on.
So the city attorney has advised us that if we have a public opinion on it, we may not be able to actually rule on that. And I do want to make a decision. I do want to be part of that decision-making process, but I can't talk about what will go into my decision-making. Number one is health and safety of the community. I think that has to be paramount when we're talking about this project. That's where a lot of the friction is this project safe? So for me, I'm going to always put the health and safety of the community first. Secondly, I'm going to weigh, when I'm looking at any business, how many jobs, Vallejo jobs are we talking about? I think that that's very important as we try to employ people who live here. Lastly, are you doing business with a Vallejo business? So that is my criteria. I think that for me, the fact that how long it's taken, we need to have an efficient permitting process that we can make a decision on where we are and what we want to be as a city in a timely manner. And I would say I think I'm uniquely positioned to make a good decision on this because I've been doing the work. I've already reached out to South Vallejo residents. Through Neighborhood Rising, we have hosted town hall meetings, getting feedback from the community. We have done door-to-door knocking in the rain, asking what are the issues in South Vallejo, talking to the people. So I think that communication is very important and understand what are the needs and issues of the community.
Thank you very much. Yes, as was mentioned, the city attorney explained it to me in this way that it's like a judge sitting on a case. They cannot make that determination until the final facts are presented to them at that point in time. However, I will say what I said last year when it came in front of us. Having worked with a lot of our businesses in town, we are constantly hearing of challenges with communication between staff and with those individuals applying for permits. And that is what was presented to us at that meeting. And so for me, I felt it was important to obtain the best information possible to make that determination, which includes a final EIR and an accurate economic impact analysis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I've been to every forum and I haven't heard anything different, so I'm going to ask you a very quick question. One word, I'd like you to tell me what you like about Orson Project. Jess, one word. What's good about the Orson Project?
I can't answer that.
Okay. Vincent, one thing that you like about the Orson Project.
Jobs.
Katie, one thing that you like about the Orson Project.
The location is beautiful.
Hakeem, one thing that you like about the Orson Project.
I would say, it's a tough question. Jobs.
Pippin, one thing that you like about the Orson Project.
Yeah, I mean, I still say that until I have that final information.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the second question. This is for everybody as well. We will start with Pippin. The city has an unfunded pension obligation of approximately $277 million. Those are 2016 figures. And pension costs are currently 60% of salaries for safety employees and 35% for other employees. The question, do you think efforts should be made to reduce this liability? Why or why not? And what could be done to do so?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I definitely think something should be done, and in fact, we have been doing it. We have set up a trust that we contribute to every year to pay down our pension liabilities as well as our OPEB liabilities, and we also contribute to our reserves every year to maintain fiscal stability. We are also going to be looking at a 10-year forecast for our budget and revenues, so that will help us in our moving forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hakeem?
So for me, the onus is always going to be on economic development, sustainable revenue. How can we bring in the revenue that we need? I mean, because we know what our bills are. We know those bills aren't going away. So, how do we reduce them? I think that we need to err on how do we create more sustainable revenue in our community so that we can pay our bills and have the money that we need to deal with other issues like our homeless issue, like public safety, like infrastructure improvements. So I think that it's all about economic development and sustainable revenue.
Okay, thank you. Katie?
Thank you. So we have been paying into a trust. It's irrevocable, so the trust has to go towards pension costs, but we have more control over it. But I was actually reading an article this morning, and cities around the state are paying into these trusts, but the burden is so big that it's a drop in the bucket. And so we have to make really tough choices. So we've got a lot of revenue. Our revenues have been rising, and has our spending been rising? They're not equal. We are actually investing more into these retirement plans than we are spending for our community. So it's actually a little bit of an inequality. So the people in our community continue to suffer because obligations made years ago are untenable. Eventually, in the 10-year projection is not good. The PERS just keeps rising and rising. And we have very little control as a city. This was done by the state. It was done, Gray Davis in 1999, trying to save his governorship, allowed 3 at 50, so people can actually retire at their top 3%, and it's a guaranteed income for the rest of their life. We have a lot of people that on PERS get more than $100,000 a year, and we just can't afford it. It just was a promise that was made that we can't afford. So we continue to cut other things and other services, and we can't afford to pay. We have to pay a living wage and be competitive and market rate, but we can't afford to provide incredibly generous retirements and good and continued increases in our wages. So it's one or the other.
Thank you. Vincent?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with if it's one or the other. I think that if you outsource this to a professional management company, Oppenheimer, Fisher Investments, or something along those lines, let the professionals do this. This is what they do for a living. Establish a good fiduciary relationship with them so that we don't get taken advantage of like what happened with the Wall Street debacle in 2006 and 7. But if you get a good manager, Charles Schwab is a good one, you could let them manage the fund, but there's definitely something needs to be done about it. But the main thing I'm gonna go with Hakeem on is you gotta get jobs in the city, and you have to get sustainable revenue in the city. You have to have companies come to the city that's gonna contribute revenue to the city for a long time. You just can't keep squeezing money out of the citizens and the residents that live here because, you know, we have to pay for gas to commute and everything else. So that's why I want jobs to start coming to the city, to Vallejo. I'm tired of commuting to the city. It's just too much. And I know a lot of the 150 other thousand residents who live here, nobody likes going to the city that much. It's just too much traffic on 80. We need jobs to come here so we can keep everything local. Make it here, keep the jobs here, bring the jobs here, keep the money here.
Thank you. Jess?
Thank you. So for our unfunded liabilities, there's actually two pieces. One is CalPERS, which is the pension fund, and the other is OPEB, which is the other benefits, which includes healthcare. CalPERS, we don't have a whole lot of control. The board makes all the investments in these billions and billions of dollars in the fund, and if they target 7.5% of return and they only get 7%, the delta is pushed out to cities and counties, and we all suffer because we have to fill in the difference. With OPEB, we have some control, not a lot. Like in the city of Vallejo, we used to pay $1,000 for health care, $1,000 of Kaiser. And so if a city employee goes to Kaiser, not a nickel will come out of their pocket up to $1,000. We have reduced that to $300. So we're now beginning to realize some savings, but we have a long way to go to handle unfunded liabilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next 5 questions, only 3 of you will answer, and it's a random sort of round robin. So the next question is, the current city general plan was updated in 2017. Do you support it? Why or why not? I just want to clarify, is it a 2.5-minute question?
Same thing.
Okay, so it's a 2.5-minute question for everybody, for 3 of you. Okay, we will start with Jess. How do you feel about answering that? Thank you.
I support the general plan. I think there's a lot of sweat and effort from volunteers who helped put it together. I think it's a good plan. But it's only half the battle. We still have to do the development code to fully, as a planning commissioner, you know, to fully complete that effort. And I did vote yes on the general plan.
Vincent, will you take that question, please?
I wasn't around for the general plan, but I've read it. I think if you look at it as a living document, there's some improvements to be made to it, and overall, I would support it. Yes, I would. But I don't want to get into the changes that I make right now because I'm not on the board yet, the council yet, so I'll
Okay.
pass on that one.
Okay. Katie, what about you?
Thank you. I actually have it with me. Let's bring it. I love the general plan, and the reason why I love it is because it was created by the community. There were meetings all over town. I attended some. It was pretty exciting, and the community actually asked for and received 2 elements that might not have been in there. That one was a healthy community element that talks about how to create healthy community opportunities for people that don't necessarily have them, especially in South Vallejo, you know, with the food deserts that we have, and also the art element. So we've got 2 elements in there produced by the community. It is a plan. It tells, the reason why it's so great is it tells the development world and anybody wanting to come to Vallejo, this is our picture. We've painted this picture. This is what we want for our community. And it also, so it creates transparency. And so we know what we want, and they know what they want, and we put them together, and they have a vision, and we have a vision, and it works together. One of the things that's the weakness about a general plan is that it's only as good as the council upholds it. So as we saw with the liquefied natural gas plant, which got me involved in politics in the first place, we had a reuse plan on Mare Island that said open space for South Vallejo, or South Mare Island. And Bechtel and Shell came along, and we did a 180 and decided we wanted a liquefied natural gas plant. We fought that, and this community won. So it's only as good as the council upholds it. So leaders need to understand that it's the community's voice, and you can't be a leader without listening to the community. One other thing I want to say about it is one of the great things about this is it's actually flexible. So I was talking to economic development staff, and there are opportunities. We have lots of underutilized properties, commercial and residential. So it's flexible enough that some of the commercial retail spaces along Springs Road in Tennessee could be converted into housing. It's called gray fill, and that actually help revitalize those corridors and also create traffic calming at the same time. You can add traffic calming, make those roads slower, make them prettier. So there's a great opportunity because of the flexibility.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, the current city general plan was updated in 2000, oh no, sorry, apologies. There we go, someone was asleep. 4, currently, elections are held on a citywide basis. There's a movement to hold district elections. Where do you fall on this issue and why? Hakeem, please.
For me, I think that we're going to have to take a very hard look at district elections. I believe in putting the power back in the people's hands, and we haven't seen that. As people talk about communities being represented, I just don't see all communities in the city of Vallejo being represented, and that's a huge concern for me. South Vallejo looks the same way it did when I was a child. North Vallejo looks worse. East Vallejo looks exactly the same. You know, so I don't think that we're seeing the representation that we need. I would love to see that. My concern is always going to be gerrymandering, and how do we do this? How do we divide this city in a way that's fair to everyone? But no matter what, I think that as long as the focus is on how do we put the power in the people's hands? How do we put the community, how do we make sure that the community is being represented? So I'm going to do whatever it takes to ensure that, and I will take a very hard look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Pippin, same question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so recent events, we did actually receive a letter from an attorney, so we are being sued as a city to go to district elections. So I think it's inevitable. Prior to receiving that letter, I already had answered in interviews and at forums previously that I was in support of considering district elections. I think that's one of the great things about the general plan is that it does become more neighborhood centric and allows for investment focus on neighborhoods like South Vallejo, like North Vallejo and Springs Road, those neighborhood corridors, so that we can provide more opportunities for investment there. I think that the process is very important. I think it should be done by an ad hoc committee separate from council so that we don't have gerrymandering, and so we can have community input to make sure that it is a fair district process. Thanks.
Thank you. Number 5, and it's to Vincent. Would you support rent control in Vallejo? Why or why not?
Okay. Rent control is good, but that's a double-edged sword, okay? If you're a landlord, it's not good for you. If you're a tenant, it's great if you get a good price. But how would you balance that? I think you have to look to the market and let the market decide on how that would go. They can give realtors too much power, and you could get slumlords that don't want to do anything or don't want to just raise the rent up and not take care of the people that are renting. So would I support it? I'd have to say if the city would come to a medium point, enforce that on the landlord and the tenant, find out what the medium place is where everybody can meet at, I would support it.
Thank you. Katie, how about you?
Thank you. Rent control, well, it depends on what that is. It's all about the definition. So rent control, like the kind they have in San Francisco, where I rented an apartment for $525 in the Tenderloin, and now it's up to like $2,500 in the Tenderloin. It's incredible. So who can afford these rents? And so the reason why it got so high is because when a person leaves rent control apartment in San Francisco, the landlord can then raise it to market rate. And so that's not rent control. And then you're going to eventually have just apartments that are unaffordable, like in San Francisco. I went to an event yesterday that was hosted by Voices of Vallejo, and Urban Habitat was there talking about various ways to look at housing and rent control. And one of the things that really intrigued me was creating a rent control board or rent board where tenants could be heard. Right now there's nothing in Vallejo at all. And so there's really interesting opportunities, I think, that we could look at. We've got, in my neighborhood, we've had terrible problems with landlords that don't care about their properties. And I had to go out and research who owned the house across the street from me. And even a realtor that I know, he couldn't even deal with this guy. All the property managers dropped him because he was so bad, right across the street. So I just became a sore point for him, and he eventually started renting to good people. So, but people shouldn't have to do that. You know, there needs to be some protection. And not every landlord is bad. I know a lot of people who own properties that are wonderful people. So it's difficult. There's not a one-size-fits-all. But I do think it's something we should look at, especially in this day and age of out-of-control prices. You've got the people that are now living out of their cars that are actually working, making $17 an hour. That's not a living wage anymore in the Bay Area. So it's something we need to look at.
Thank you. Hakeem, how about you?
It's something that I'm looking at. I mean, along with Prop 10, I do think that we need to take a hard look at affordable housing and what are we doing for the community and people that live here. My concern is, once again, implementation. Will this help the people that really need it? I do think that we have a huge supply problem in the city of Vallejo. We're not building, we're not developing, we're not using the space that we have. And that's something that I learned when I volunteered at the homeless shelter is there are people who are working 40-hour jobs and still can't afford a place to stay. So that tells me we need more housing, we need more affordable housing, we need to hold developers accountable and make sure that they are building mixed-use housing that takes into account the need for Vallejoans, working class people, our seniors to be able to live in this city.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the same question of you, Pippin. Would you answer that, please?
Sure, thank you. So I agree it's a supply problem. There are ample studies that show that rent control actually does not benefit those individuals that it's intended for. So I think that it's important that we look at how to increase housing as well as affordable housing. So one of the actions we recently took at City Council was to approve accessory dwelling units to be allowed in our city. And so that will provide opportunities for investment in our properties, increasing our property tax values, generating more revenues to the city, as well as providing more housing opportunities, more affordable housing opportunities to more individuals. And as supply increases, of course, prices go down. So, considering demand stays the same. So I think that's really where we need to focus. And also looking at focusing on promoting and facilitating home ownership for our residents so that they can benefit from having that asset and in the future being able to build accessory dwelling units as well.
Thank you. Okay, question number 6. How would you address the current homeless situation in Vallejo? Number 6. 5 questions? No, I thought number 8 is lightning. Okay. Bear with me. Let me repeat that again. Number 6, yeah. 2 minutes, okay. Number 6, how would you address the current homeless situation in Vallejo? Let's start with Katie.
Thank you. So homeless, there is a variety of issues that make people homeless, and so there's a variety of solutions. We don't it's a problem that San Francisco can't even solve, unfortunately. We don't have the mental health services that we need in this state or this country anymore. And so how do we get those folks into mental health services that are desperately needing? Some people that are on the street that have schizophrenia, there's nothing for them. And so they end up homeless. There's also people that are the working poor that live out of their cars and whatnot. I do think that actually more housing would be helpful, more sort of moderate rate housing. And we have opportunities there. We have, as I said earlier, the underutilized properties across Vallejo could be converted into housing. We also have public space. We have public property that we might be able to use as an incentive to get builders to build. Because we don't really have the money in our budget. It costs a lot of money to develop housing, and we just don't have that. But if we can work with developers to make incentives to sweeten the deal, we might be able to get some of those in. We currently have a project that's approved. It's going to be built for 150 people, 75 units. It's housing first, and that's the way to go for homeless people. You get them housing, permanent housing, and they go in there. And they come in with their pets, if they have addictions, they can come in and still be using, and they get treatment there. So that's one way to get the mental health services, because we're coordinating with the county and a nonprofit. So there's no easy answer, and there's always a Sophie's choice, because you're going to help some people and not help others. But I would like to see for the homeless services in Vallejo prioritized with seniors and vets and families with children. Thank you.
Thank you. Hakeem, how would you deal with the current homeless situation?
So I think first we're going to still have to go back to economic development. I mean, I see a lot of different cities that are doing some very interesting things and transformative things, but we need the revenue to do that. You know, we can't build tiny homes and be innovative if we don't have the money to do it. You know, so I think that's number one. Secondly, low-hanging fruit, we can always be more efficient in how we coordinate with other organizations here in the city of Vallejo. There are a bunch of organizations that work with the homeless, church organizations, nonprofits. They're all doing their own thing. You know, I think that it would be great to see the city coordinate those efforts, see who's doing what communities are getting the help, what communities aren't getting the help. You know, I think that that's something that we can do that should be fairly efficient. Lastly, I think we need to be pragmatic. You know, I think that we do have some help in the city, but right now, if you have a drug abuse problem, you don't have anywhere to stay in the city of Vallejo. That's unacceptable. We have to be pragmatic, meet people where they are at. If they have a drug problem, we need to help them where they are at. If they have a problem with mental health services, we need to get them the help that they need. If it's a housing problem or jobs, we need to bring the services to them, but we can't, it has to be for everyone. It can't just be for some. It can't just be for those who meet a certain criteria. All of our homeless need our help, and we have to get out there and get into the streets and start helping them.
Thank you. Vincent, how would you address the current homeless situation in Vallejo?
Last time I answered this question, I got in trouble with some audience members. I still say, my daughter, she's working in school now, and she's studying to be a psychiatrist. She's working on her PhD. And the root of all problems, it starts in the head. It starts in the top. There's old saying that a fish rots from the head down. Bad problems start from the head down, and they just get worse. So you have to take care of people's mental state first. You have to, because you can give them a home, but they're going to still have the same alcohol, substance abuse, and mental issues inside of that home. If you don't take care of their mind, the body's just going to follow, and it's just going to deteriorate as well. So I think that if you take care of the head first, and Vallejo is not that far from Napa. Why not get in contact with Napa State Mental Hospital? Have them put up a subclinic down here. Get professional people down here to deal with people that knows a lot about mental issues, how to treat people, because mental challenged people can be combative at times, and it can cause issues. You're trying to help them, and they don't understand that, and then you end up hurting them, or they end up hurting you. So you have to have professional people deal with it. You can get them in the house, and you should get them in the house. Nobody should be homeless, especially seniors, especially mothers with children, and our vets. That's the saddest thing I've ever seen in this country. We talk about the military, how much we love it, how great they are, but when a vet needs something, we just cast them aside, and that's wrong. That's just very wrong. The elderly, the veterans, and especially women, abuse women, that's another thing that's just unbelievable. That just shouldn't happen. And they should have a battered women's shelter. It's just, we got to take better care of our people. That's it.
Thank you. Question 7. Are you in favor of a ballot measure to put binding arbitration back in the city charter? Why or why not? Pippin?
Yes, so the voters voted to remove binding arbitration from our charter, and so the voters have spoken. I support what the voters said.
Okay. Jess, do you support binding arbitration, putting it back on the city charter?
Well, I think that I agree with Pippin. The voters have spoken. I think it was Measure A. And I've not heard of any groups wanting to put it back on the ballot. But at the moment, that's where we stand.
Okay, thank you. Hakeem, how do you feel about binding arbitration?
And would I favor putting it back on the ballot? No, I would not.
Okay. Next is the lightning round. It's 30 seconds. And we'll start with Jess. Do you support moving coal through a Vallejo deep sea port? Why or why not?
Coal is very dangerous, hazardous, and my short answer is we should not see coal in the city of Vallejo.
Vincent, how do you feel about coal?
I like coal. I do. I think if you manage it and you do it professionally, you can move it through. There's precautions you can take, but there's a lot of coal miners to be put out of work if we stop using coal. I like natural gas, but I think coal's good as well.
Thank you.
I have no problem with it.
Okay. So just to clarify, that is a yes. I support moving coal through Vallejo deep sea port.
That is a yes.
Okay, thank you. C. Katie, same question.
Thank you. So not only coal coming through Vallejo, I think you got the deep seaport, and then in order to get it from the seaport through the city, you've got train tracks that go all through our community. And so carrying that kind of toxic load is not good for our community. I fought the bringing intrastate garbage into Solano County, and we lost because of the state created a bill. And I'm afraid of actually garbage coming through our city. Don't want garbage either.
Thank you. Take a deep breath. Okay. D, same question. Please, Hakeem.
No, I do not favor coal coming through the city of Vallejo. Yeah, quite frankly, that's period,
Okay.
point blank.
Okay. Pippin, you're last.
Thank you. Yeah, I do not support it. I appreciate the Sierra Club local representatives, Joe Feller and Doug Darling, for taking time to meet with me, as well as I think everyone else up here about a month ago to explain how hazardous and dangerous it could be to our community. So I absolutely do not support moving coal through our city.
Okay, so just to clarify, Pippin, you said no. Hakeem, you said no. Katie, you said no. Vincent, you said yes. Jess? No. Okay. Okay. Question number 9. Again, 30 seconds. We'll start with Pippin. Would you support a sales tax increase for replacing the existing police headquarters? Why or why not?
Yeah, that was a tough one. It did come in front of us earlier this year, and it's a tough issue that we have to address it somehow. Currently, our current police department, there are sewage leaks regularly. There's lead, there's asbestos, there's all kinds of hazardous conditions. It's a very old structure, and it's going to be very expensive to fix it. So we definitely need to look at all of our options and weigh it as a council.
Okay. Hakeem, same question, please.
So up to this point, I have not done a tour of the old police station, so I would need to take a look at what their facilities look like. How much do we need this? Are they able to do their job? I think that's what would go into my decision making, is understanding what is the current state of the police department and how do we go from there.
Thank you. Vincent, same question, please.
Thank you for that question. Now, I don't know if everybody knows or not, but I'm a former police officer. I think police officers should get anything and everything they want that's good. They deserve it. That is a hard, tough job. And when you get that job, if you love your community, that's the best way to show it. So if they need a police station, I say tax the marijuana people coming in wanting to sell marijuana, tax them at 40% and give that to the police department. Because as soon as they start having problems, you're gonna start calling the police to arrest the drug dealer, whoever's messing with the drugs. So tax the marijuana people and give it to the police. Get them a new station and get them a K-9.
Thank you. C, Katie, same question.
Yes, we were actually presented with this option. It was without a whole lot of notice, something we didn't really discuss in goal setting. We just discussed it broadly. The police headquarters are in terrible shape, and right now we're doing Band-Aid work on them, on the buildings. They do have asbestos, lead, sewage leaks, and people have to work there. So not only the police headquarters, though, we've got failing water pipes. Our infrastructure all over Vallejo is falling apart. So we're going to have a coordinated effort looking at everything.
Jess?
Thank you. The Napa earthquake exposed major issues at the PD main station. I'm not ready to say no to sales tax yet. We need to look at all of our options. It does have asbestos, structure issues, leaking pipes, and we can't delay it much longer. We need to do something about fixing it. Built in the 50s, totally outdated.
Thank you. Question number 10. Let's start with Katie. Should Vallejo enact campaign finance reform to limit contributions to a candidate's campaign? If yes, how would you enact it? If not, why not?
Campaign financing. So one of the problems with that, I mean, I actually am in favor of it, and I don't know how I'm not quite sure how I would enact it. But one of the problems that we have is the PACs that are well funded, and they aren't controlled. So it feels like it wouldn't work, because we'll still have the political action committees that fund them. The district voting actually might help, though, because you'll have smaller areas to run, and that would help make it more affordable for a variety of people to run.
Thank you. Vincent, how do you feel about campaign finance reform?
I think it needs to be reformed, and I, myself, it's my first time running for any public office, and when I was a police officer, I never took bribes, free meals, coffees, apples, nothing. I don't believe in it. I don't accept money now. I don't accept endorsements. I will not accept money, endorsements, because if a vote comes in front of me, if I'm elected to the city council, I want the people to know I work for them. I work for my community and the people that vote for me. So I don't want my decision to be influenced or swayed by any PAC or any endorsement. So I love campaign finance reform. I think you should have a central committee where the money goes to.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to move to Hakeem now. Thank you. Hakeem, how do you feel about finance reform?
So what will always drive my decision making is, will this help the people and put the power back into people's hands, or will it not? And that would be my concern. I think along with district elections, that might make some sense. I think district elections without campaign finance reform, it's just the same amount of money, but smaller areas that you have to use it on. But I agree with what Katie said. With PACs out there, I'm not sure how we would be able to implement that.
Thank you. Pippin?
Yeah, I echo the comments of Hakeem as well as Katie. It's, I think the biggest challenge is getting the information to the voters. Finding the time to go door to door, as I have through this neighborhood, and trying to get people to engage and say, look, I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to provide you some information, and getting people to not be apathetic to our elections and getting involved. So finding ways to do that without it being political would be great.
Thank you. Okay, question number 11, and we will start with Hakeem. Do you support a green belt along the length of the waterfront with public access for all? Why or why not?
Well, I would have to say that is a kind of a loaded question because now we're talking about right along the waterfront, 20 feet, 30 feet. I like the park. I've walked the waterfront in the past. I think that we should keep that. I don't think that we should do anything about that. That being said, we do need to find a way to develop the waterfront as well and do both. You know, how do we make sure that we have some green areas for people to walk while we can still take advantage of one of the most beautiful waterfronts in the country and get some sustainable revenue from that?
Thank you. Just to remind everybody, it's 30 seconds, so I'm sorry, it may seem really rude to cut you off, and I'm sorry, Vincent, I was like, ooh. So there you go. Again, do you support a green belt along the length of the waterfront? And just very quickly, Hakeem, say to me again, you said no or yes. I found it hard to.
I said that it was a loaded question because without letting me know how much area, how many feet off the water are we talking, it's hard to say yes or no. I do support having some green areas. I do support the waterfront, being able to walk the water. I think that that is very important, but we still have to develop it.
Okay, thank you. Jess, could you answer the same question?
Sure. I voted in favor of the general plan, which includes the greenbelt designation.
Okay, thank you. That was very easy, wasn't it? Okay. Pippin, how about you?
Yeah, I also voted to support the general plan, so.
Okay. Okay. C, Katie.
Thank you. I also support the general plan. I just want to mention that the area where all the festivals happen, that was saved from a development by Barbara Candilis. So she started it. So our plan actually has, you can have when it's all fully developed, you'll have a promenade all the way up on the east side of the strait, across the bridge, and all the way down the west side of the strait. So it's going to be beautiful. And there are great plans for our waterfront, but it's on the other side of Mare Island Way.
Okay. And Vincent, could you answer that question too?
I can't answer that question. I do support coal. I do support green space. I love green, clean air. You can't manage coal efficiently. I do want a green space. I'd like to have a dog park as well. I like dogs a lot. So yeah, I think a green space would be good. My answer is yes.
Okay. Yes. Now we're going to go to audience questions. So if you thought it was difficult. Pardon? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Oh, a card? Yes, of course. We've got. Okay. So this is audience questions, 45 seconds for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's audience questions, 45 seconds for everybody, and we'll just go down the line. Pippin, would you like to start? Okay. My neighborhood is outraged over the number of abandoned and/or inoperable vehicles on city streets. Reporting them seems to do nothing. Do you have any solutions?
Yeah, it is a tough challenge. I frequently use, so I'm thinking whoever probably reported with C-Click Fix, which is an app that the city has available to everyone to report illegal dumping, abandoned vehicles, all of those kinds of things, and it tracks it so that you can see the staff person that's assigned to it and how they are responding to it, which allows us to track as well what's happening. Last week I found out that we had 700 vehicles reported to the city. So we have one officer in our traffic division. So growing our revenues so that we can increase our traffic division to be able to respond to those things is important and something I'll continue working hard on.
Thank you. Hakeem?
I think to deal with it has to focus on economic development. We need more police officers on the street. We need more traffic officers. We need more code enforcement officers. We have to have that. We can't be undermanned and expect them to do the same job that another city with the same amount of people would do with less police officers on the street. So I think it starts with economic development.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you. It is a challenge. We do have a form on the police department's website that must be filled out. I've been precinct walking, and sometimes I will see abandoned vehicles. I take pictures of them and send them in myself. I think one of the things that this is a little bit of an outside of the box idea. We have too many entrances and exits on 80, 14 through Vallejo. And I think it's so easy to zoom off of 80 and dump a car. I think we see them a lot in our neighborhood because we're right off of 37. So these, vehicles that are used in crimes, and they're just dumped there. And I think looking at something like that, that's really creative. And actually, Caltrans has proposed that, and eventually I think it'll happen, and I support it. There's too many entrances and exits off of 80.
Thank you. Vincent?
This is a project I had as a police officer vehicle abatement. So I think we can the city of Vallejo can turn this problem around and make a positive out of it. And here's how you do that. You put a vehicle there, it's been abandoned for more than 10 days, you put a sticker on it. If it stays abandoned for 5 more days, that's 15 days. You tow it, call the salvage people, sell it as salvage, and take the revenue and commit it back to the city. So if the people don't claim it, we take the vehicle and we sell it for salvage and get the money.
Jess?
Thank you. We actually do that in the city of Vallejo, and just keep reporting it. Don't get tired. Elevate it if you need to. Document the calls. If you start with Christina Encarnacion, that doesn't work, you can elevate it to Lieutenant Park, and eventually Chief Bidu and the city attorney. You could always email city council members, and we do read our emails, and we ask staff to solve those issues for you.
Thank you. The next question is, how do you plan to clean up our city with respect to filth and dirty highways? Jess, would you like to take that?
Some of the, we've collected tons and tons of garbage, including illegal dumping. So we've hired a full-time investigator to help us with illegal dumping, and we're taking people to court. But the other issue is Caltrans. We have to work with them. If you call them today, you can't expect the debris to be removed the next day. It just doesn't work that way. But we do have a working relationship with Caltrans. So.
Vincent?
Caltrans is absolutely useless. This is something that the city has. We can't expect someone else to come in and take care of our own garbage. We have to do it ourselves. I think if you get cameras and you start monitoring where they're dumping it, because if people dump there once they get away with it, they'll come back and do it again. They're just like animals. So once they get a territory established, they kind of like to stay in that area. So if you put night vision cameras in there, day vision cameras in there, and conceal the cameras, you'll catch the people. Go after the people that are doing it, because they're going to be repeat offenders, and you'll get them that way.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you. We do have a program with a sworn officer now, and so we're seeing some results. But I do agree that there's a lot of trash everywhere. Caltrans is doing a terrible job, and Councilmember Robert McConnell suggested that we create an ad hoc committee to address Caltrans, and I think that's needed. I used to drive down to Burlingame for a contract job, and you get down there and it's all beautiful, and they get all the services. What about us? So, it's a squeaky wheel, so we need to force them. We do have a dump day, and I'd like to see more of those. We have a dump day coming up in the fall where you can bring all your household crap, garbage. Mine is, and then dump it off. And we need more of those because we actually hire a crew, 5 people that collect trash all week long for the city.
Hakeem?
So that is a big problem. I would love to see the police program expanded, but once again, we need the sustainable revenue to expand that program. Another thing that I noticed is there was someone dumping on Redwood Street. I saw the police there taking care of it. I was impressed. The next day when I drove by, they were dumping again. So I think that it is having that presence on the street, having officers on the street, because people are bold. They are dumping wherever they want to. Long term, I would love to see some youth programs where we teach our kids the importance of picking up their trash. I do think that there is a cultural issue where our kids don't know that, and I would love to see the schools implement programs where they teach kids, hey, the importance of picking up trash, why we need to keep our environment clean.
Thank you. Yeah, I do believe it needs to be a multi-pronged approach. We have significantly increased our enforcement activities this year so that we are holding people accountable for the dumping that is occurring, whether it's individuals dumping their own stuff or if they are hiring somebody not realizing that the reason they were so cheap was because they aren't actually dumping it at the appropriate facility. So holding those people accountable will help decrease that a little bit, but then we also need to hold Caltrans accountable. So I've actually been working for over a year with Senator Dodd on exactly that issue, and just keep being the squeaky wheel saying, look, we need to increase the trash cleanup as well as the maintenance and paving of our streets and roads.
Okay, the next question is, big money contributions from out-of-town special interests is a big concern for many voters. Have you received more than $2,500 from any out-of-town entities? Let's start with Jess. And who? I added that one.
Yeah, no, I have not.
Okay, thank you. Vincent?
I have not, and if I did, I'd report them to you.
Katie?
I have not, and you might want to include in-town interests. There's special interests out and in town.
Okay. Hakeem?
Piggyback on what Katie said, no, I have not, but I'd also be concerned about special interests in town. I see a lot of special interest groups. I see them donating to all campaigns, and so, when people are donating, are they asking you questions? Are they demanding an answer on certain projects? Are they demanding to know what you're going to vote on? So I think we need to get away from that. That has been a huge problem here in the city of Vallejo across the board, and I would like to see us be able to move forward away from that.
Thank you. Kate and Pippin?
No, I have not.
Okay, so since two of you have brought it up, why don't we just say that? Have you received money from local special interests, and who? Jess? And why have you taken it?
I would just refer to the Form 460, which is public record. Instead of reciting my contributions, it's available to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have been offered money, and I have refused money, and I will continue to refuse money. I will not accept money. I will not accept endorsements, state, national, or local. I don't want it. I'll do this myself. I'm only after votes.
Thank you. Katie?
And there's also another issue that's not discussed is a lot of the money that used to go to candidates is now going to the PACs.
Mm-hmm.
And so pay attention to the political action committees, what they represent and who they endorse.
But can you answer the question?
Oh, no, I have not.
Okay, thank you.
The question is, have I received PAC money from any inside interests?
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten a lot of endorsements and received a lot of support across the board, but I'm definitely proud of that. I don't think that means that anyone is bought. I'm a leader who stands on his own 2 feet. I think that, whether it's whatever candidate it is, there are people who are putting pressure on you to decide this way or that way. So what we need are leaders who are going to speak up for themselves. We don't need bought leaders across the board. I don't want to see any bought leaders who, regardless of the project, will bend or sway to whatever crowd they think that they're going to get votes from or they're going to get money from. And that's across the board, once again.
Yeah, I have received contributions from a variety of organizations and individuals, and I'm very proud of that fact. Every single contribution I've received has been from individuals that I have worked with to promote economic development, to create more jobs, and to grow our revenue so that we can provide better services to our community and increase public safety.
Okay. A question about environmental justice. South Vallejo already suffers from a higher than normal rate of asthma and cancer. If elected, how would you fight for environmental justice for low-income and minority neighborhoods? Jess.
Yeah, so environmental justice is about fairness, about environmental regulations applied fairly across the board, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity. And in our city, the city of Vallejo is ultimately the land use authority, but there are regulators above and beyond what the city council is able to regulate. So I feel comfortable about environmental justice in our city.
Okay. Vincent?
Despite my lack of coal, I do like coal, but I think you can keep the air clean, and I do support environmental justice.
Okay, I'm going to read that question again because maybe I understood it differently. South Vallejo already suffers from a higher than normal rate of asthma and cancer. If elected, how would you fight for environmental justice for low-income and minority neighborhoods?
Find out what the cause is, why the children are suffering from asthma and lung problems. Is it because secondhand smoke? Is it because the parents smoke? Is it because the vehicle smoke? Is it what kind of dust is in the air? Do air sampling. Get with the Sierra board, the air quality board. Check that area, targeted areas. They have sensors you can put on the light poles and get this information. Collect that data and analyze what the age of the children are. Are they susceptible to certain kinds of lung ailments, or is it just something that's genetic? Find out the cause and fix that, not the symptom. Find the cause and fix the cause. That'll alleviate the symptoms.
Katie?
So environmental justice is where you don't want to add more polluting industries into an area that already suffers. South Vallejo suffers from the refineries and I-80 pollutants. We were identified in the California EnviroScreen map as being, we have actually now three locations, 3 precincts in the city, the South Vallejo and the Meadows, and I can't remember the third one. And so how would I address it? I think we have to be very cautious to not add more, we can't add more industry in those areas that are going to increase the rates of asthma and pollutants in the air. And we are, so these Cal EnviroScreen maps identify funding from the greenhouse gas initiatives that would actually, we could get funding for those areas to reduce the pollutants, like planting trees that are going to absorb some of the carbons.
Okay. Hakeem, please.
So I think that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. As second vice president of the NAACP Vallejo chapter, I care about equality for all. Environmental justice deals with whether the laws are being enforced equally. I think for me, obviously we want to see that, but number one thing is communication. You have to reach out to those communities. You have to make sure that they have a voice. That is the big question here, is making sure that those communities have a voice. That's something that we've already been doing through Neighborhood Rising. We hosted a town hall. We did the walking. You know, we were walking in the rain asking people about what are their issues in South Vallejo before I ever thought about running. And we did it because we want to make sure that Vallejoans have a voice and not to be used by puppets by anybody. By anyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think there's 2 sides to the environmental justice. It's about preventing additional burdens on low-income or ethnic groups, as well as making sure there's fair benefits to all of those communities as well. To prevent unfair increase of burden, I would certainly ask for an environmental justice analysis on any project where it made sense. And also on reducing current situations, Councilmember Malgapo and myself have both been very supportive of both smoke-free housing, multi-housing, and also smoke-free bus transit centers.
Okay. Jess, would you like me to give you another 10 minutes to, not 10 minutes, 10 seconds to respond to that question? I think you might have had a bit of a misunderstanding.
Well, yeah, I agree with Councilmember Costa, and you know, there's fairness. There has to be fairness in terms of development
Okay.
and damage to the environment
Okay.
across the board.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Do you support participatory budgeting? Why or why not? Pippin, would you like to start?
Yes, so I do support it. I was on the steering committee the first year, and I was also the facilitator for the public safety group. And you know, the thing that I thought was the most fascinating about the process was that it brought together individuals that, you know, throughout the community that were known to each other, but they had never had the opportunity to work together. And so you saw a lot of bridge building between groups that normally had felt that they were on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so getting that collaboration all across the community to work on projects that benefit our entire community is very important. So yes, I do continue supporting it.
Hakeem?
Yes, I do support it. I think that for me, it's once again putting the power back into the people's hands, and that's why I'm running. That's something that matters to me. I also love it because it allows young people to understand the power of their vote. I think that that is great to get young Vallejoans involved in the city and understanding that, hey, I can vote to make a difference. I can vote on issues that are important to me, and just getting them to thinking about different issues in our community. So I think that it is a great program. That's why I volunteered to be a delegate. It was extremely hard work. It was actually one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but it was also very enjoyable to talk to the community, understand the issues, so I definitely support it.
Katie?
Absolutely. So I was a steering committee member before I was elected, and I was also a facilitator for education-related initiatives. And two of ours, well, one of ours won. So it's a really great way, as folks have already said, to get the community to get together and meet people that you would never meet normally, and also the children that are involved is fantastic. We've got children as young as 11-year-olds were involved, and we've lowered the voting age to 14. So, and this is so powerful. We always wonder why young people don't vote. This is a great way to get young people to be voting. They understand that their vote matters. So, thank you. 100%, 1,000%.
Okay. Vincent?
I do support it, and I think it is a way to get the community involved. But also, let me go back to the coal just for a second. The reason I say about the coal is because those trains rolling through there, they're loaded with coal. They weigh a lot. Tax the money.
Vincent, I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
I understand. It's
Okay.
okay, but participatory budgeting was
I
the
know.
question. But
Yeah,
thank you. Thank
you're
you very
welcome.
much. It's a good try. Jess? Yes. Jess?
Oh, I too was on the original steering committee. I support PB. It's the only thing we do in the city that engages members of the community all the way down to 14-year-olds. And there was one cycle where more than 4,000 participants voted, and I think that's tremendous. I wish we could authorize more funding. We're sort of limited in that regard, but I've consistently voted in favor of PB year after year after year. So.
You know I was for it, right? I said yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, since you keep bringing it up, do you want to take back your comment on coal? No?
No.
Then we move on. Okay. Next question. What will you do to protect homeowners from absentee property owners who build ADUs without regard for existing neighborhoods? Okay. Pippin, you want to start?
So we do have existing codes and regulations around that. So they do have to meet the standards of our planning and permitting departments. So that will protect those situations from happening as long as they are getting permits. If there are situations where they are not, if they're building accessory dwelling units illegally, then certainly we will enforce action against them as well.
Thank you. Hakeem?
Something that we need to pay attention to. Obviously, I support ADUs, but I do not want to see it abused where we do have absentee landlords and putting unnecessary strains on those communities. So I think it's something that we need to pay very close attention to and really understand the process and see is it working or not working.
Katie?
It's on. So this is a real challenge. Neighborhoods around Vallejo are not all the same. And some, the central part of Vallejo, I've gotten some complaints from folks where they've got investment properties, the homeowner's not there, they've already been a problem, and now they're building ADUs, and the regulations are pretty broad. So this one gal, they're building something 5 feet away from the fence, and she no longer has privacy in her backyard. We also need more housing, so it's something that's important to add to the housing mix. But I was hoping that would be homeowner primary or in the ADU for the first couple of years, just to see how it works out for us. But that's not a possibility, and it's very broad. The rules are very broad, so we don't have a lot of control. The state does.
Thank you. I think it's a process that the city should definitely be in charge of and control through permitting and through permits, because people can't get out. It's not. I don't want it to be like a homeowners association, but it's your property. You should be able to control your property, but the city has to regulate it. So I'm for it.
Okay, Jess?
So there's no law against owning a property and be living in another state and making your property a rental, essentially. The other piece of information I want to add is that we did not bring this upon ourselves. There's a serious housing crisis, and so the state legislator said we will do ADUs. And cities, not only will you amend your code by adding authorization for ADUs, when they apply for a permit, you have to approve them. The city did not initiate this. The housing shortage is real, and so I voted in favor of ADU.
Thank you. Okay. Next question is, what is your plan for drug problem and high rate of crime motivated by drug addiction? So, what's your plan to limit or reduce crime motivated by drug addiction? Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I had to edit that. Let's start with Katie.
So this is a real challenge, actually. As everybody knows, we have an opioid epidemic in the United States. And so the only way to solve it is to, I would say, a lot of the addicts, if they're homeless especially, because a lot of times that turns you into, it makes you homeless. The housing first idea allows addicts to move into housing while they're still using, because you can't get clean on the streets. And so this is what the building that we're building on Sacramento will allow people to come in with their habits, and then they get treated there. And actually it sometimes works. I mean, addictions are really tough. How do you stop them? Opioid addictions are incredibly tough.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hakeem?
So I think that, number one, we need to hold our county offices accountable and making sure that we're getting the services that we need. We are the biggest city in Solano County. I don't see a lot of county services that we need here in the community. Secondly, I do think that we need to be very pragmatic. We do have issues. Do we know what the drug problem is? Are we talking to kids? Because trust me, I see a lot of seniors here, and I hate to tell you, but we're not in touch with what the kids are doing. When we think the kids are on heroin, they're on pills. When they're done with, we think they're on pills, they're on something else. So I think it's reaching out to the community, reaching out to these kids, understanding what drugs are out there, understanding who's using them, and seeing how we can combat it.
Pippin?
It's okay. Yeah, I do believe it takes collaboration with the county. They do provide the health and social services aspect that supports our community, and working with our police department to, make our enforcement actions effective. And working with like First Five Solana, which supports the young, children 0 to 5, and other organizations that support families, so that we can provide that training and support, so that we can prevent them from going to those options. But I really do believe it takes collaboration across the board with not just city, county, but state and federal services as well.
Vincent?
Okay, we do have a drug problem, and making marijuana legal was the worst thing could ever happen to any state, any nation, whatever. Marijuana, everybody says it's such a good drug. It's not a good drug. It's not a bad drug. They think it's okay, but it's not. It leads to other addictions. And I'm speaking from a law enforcement standpoint. I've seen it happen. If you see your parents smoking, the kid's going to smoke it. Then when you legalize it, there's no stopping it. So it's just going to continually get worse. They're going to go from marijuana, they're going to go to heroin, they're going to go to worse. So it's just, you need to stop. Just no end to this. You got to stop it now. That's it.
Jess?
I think everything starts at the home with parenting, and if it's out of control there, then the hope is that the next level would be our schools through education. And if we can't stop it there and it translates into crime, then law enforcement will have to step in. So there's layers of things we can do, but certainly the permanent supportive housing is a step in the right direction, because we will take them off the streets, whether they're addicted, sober, not sober. They can come into this program. It should happen at the beginning of, or spring of next year.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what is most discouraging about Vallejo? Vincent, shall we start with you?
I wouldn't say it's discouraging, but the thing that I find most distressing about Vallejo is the amount of job opportunity for people of a certain age, young people, middle-aged people. There's not a lot of job opportunity in the city of Vallejo. You got to bring in outside companies, bring in outside jobs. There's got to be more job creation. That's probably the most discouraging thing, is the least amount of jobs that are. There's no jobs here.
Katie?
Most discouraging, frankly, I feel like it's the attitude of some people that say Vallejo is a bad place. And even people that live here, it takes a village. We have some great opportunities right now, and a lot of people don't really know about them because it's just hard to get the word out. But what's going on right now, we've had some exciting things happening that are in the hopper, and people don't know about it, and then they continue to talk poorly about our city, people that live here and people that don't live here, and that's most discouraging to me personally.
Okay. Jess, will you take that question?
I'm very positive and upbeat about the city of Vallejo. I'm having trouble finding anything discouraging. When I came into city council, our deficits was running in the millions, and now we're in the black, and we actually had a surplus. Our police was 78, 79, 80 officers. Now we're at 122. Our roads were the worst in the county, Solana County, and today we pave over 137 miles of roads, and we continue to do that. Hard not to see it as you drive around town. And there are amazing, amazing economic development opportunities that is already in progress.
Thank you. Hakeem?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. What is most discouraging about Vallejo?
Well, for me, as a young man, I would say it is the amount of slander, vilify, repeat that the city of Vallejo has played for the last 20 years. It has, as a young person who has watched it, it has gotten us nowhere. Continuing to play the blame game, create boogeymen and who's to blame. The analogy I would use is a house that's burning and two adults fighting while innocent people are hurt. What are we doing about our kids? What are we doing about our seniors? Nothing. While we play the blame game, while we play the smear game, and really grown adults who don't know how to play anything different. You should not be proud of yourself. And I've seen it in this campaign, and it's really ridiculous. We need to be moving the city forward, not looking back. We don't need to be focused on division. We need to be focused on how we can work together.
Hakeem, I've heard you say that before in other forums. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to explain, what is it? You say 2 minutes. Vilify.
Slander, vilify, repeat?
Yeah.
Okay, give you an example.
Bear
How
with
about
me.
that?
I haven't finished.
Okay.
Not in this campaign, but in previous campaigns. I'm sorry.
I just real quick. I ran a race this morning, so I was super dehydrated, and I've been drinking a ton of water. May I run to the restroom real quick? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, absolutely. Totally. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, and you can think about that. Let's take a 2-minute break, and you can think about that.
And repeat the question.
Yes. The question is, I've heard you mention that before. It is, what is it?
Slander, vilify, repeat.
Repeat.
Playing the
And-
blame game.
And play the blame game. And what I'd like you to do is give us a concrete example, not in this campaign, but in a previous campaign.
Okay.
So, because I want to stay away from us being angry here, but I want to understand what you mean, because you said since you were a little boy. That
Well, I
has
didn't
been-
say, you never heard me say since I was a little boy.
Since you were young,
I
perhaps?
said I've watched it as a young man, and I've watched
that's
it.
it.
Yes.
Apologies.
That's okay.
Okay. Maybe, Pippin, you can tell us if you won the race?
We did. We won the Mayor's Cup Challenge 5 years in a row.
Bravo. Okay, let's start again. What is it? Say it again.
Slander, vilify, repeat.
Okay, slander, vilify, repeat. Please give me a concrete example in a past campaign where you've seen that, and why going forward we need to change.
Well, I think it's not really fair to ask me to be specific on a specific campaign because I haven't worked on those campaigns. But I will say this, as a young man who has been on the peripherals of politics here in Vallejo, I've heard, hey, this is the boogeyman. That person's a boogeyman. This group you shouldn't talk to. That group you shouldn't talk to. And then when I decided to run, I was shocked because I saw it myself. You know, I saw the bullying. I saw people saying, well, you can't talk to this person or you can't talk to that person. That's not the way I was raised. You know, my family taught me, be a leader, not a follower. You know, talk to everybody. Learn how to build
Okay.
coalitions.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Hakeem. That was good. That explained it to me. Now we're back to, this is the last question.
I don't think I got the opportunity
Oh,
to
no, you
answer that.
didn't. I am so sorry. You're absolutely right. Apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you
Thank
repeat it again?
Thank you.
Of
What
course.
is the most discouraging about Vallejo? Thank you, Pippin.
Yeah, so I think for me, it has been for a long time now, and something that we are working on, but you know, we need to do better, is the blight and the illegal dumping, the garbage that we see on all of our gateways, on all of our main thoroughfares. I'm hopeful that with the new general plan that we will see, you know, new investment in the gateways, in the corridors, and see improvements along those lines. But you know, so many of our neighborhoods, so many of our areas are gorgeous and beautiful, but the average person driving by on 80 doesn't see any of that. And so we need to improve that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next question, and it's the last question. How can the Chambers of Commerce work with the City of Vallejo to promote business attraction and business retention? Pippin, I know you're excited about that question, but I'm going to leave it for last for you, okay? So let's start with Jess.
I think there's already a lot of collaboration between the different chambers of commerce and the city of Vallejo. There are multiple websites, Facebook pages that you'll see similarities and along the same theme, and even the Realtor Association collaborates in promoting our city, attracting businesses. And for 3 decades, we've talked about improving Mare Island downtown and the waterfront. We're beyond talking now. We're doing it.
Thank you. Vincent?
Thank you for letting me answer this one. I don't think the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce has not done enough. The city of Fresno went out to Amazon, and Fresno has the biggest Amazon fulfillment facility, and it's creating so many jobs for so many people. Vallejo could have did that. They should have did that, and they still should try and do that. You need to get the chamber to start thinking big. They want to put in a Panera Bread, and they think that's like the most exciting thing around, is a little coffee shop. That's not creating a job for a whole bunch of people. Maybe 5, 6 people get a job out of there, and they're going to work they only open from 9 to 5. That's their shift. That's not creating enough jobs. You need to bring real money to the community. So they're not doing a good job.
Okay. Katie?
I think the chamber has improved quite a bit. Since I got involved with the liquefied natural gas plant, I just felt like the chamber wasn't promoting the city very well. They got a contract from the city, and what I saw, they just attended conferences, and it just felt like they weren't doing a lot. I see now more collaboration with the 4 chambers, and I do think that they are doing a good job of reaching out to business owners, especially small business owners. We've got a lot of great opportunity. We've got the Nimitz Group that's proposed for North Merritt Island, 157 acres. But these smaller businesses have struggles. The permitting process, we're now trying to fix it. It's been broken for many years. And so that's going to help the smaller businesses that can't weather the storms of going into City Hall and getting a different answer on a different day.
I think that's a great question. For me, as a chamber member and a Vallejo business owner, I would actually like to see less backslapping and talking about how great we are and everyone showing up at events, and more actual work. I'm not a big backslapping type of person. I like work, and I would like to see the city doing a better job of reaching out to Vallejo businesses, understanding the needs, taking it seriously, taking the chamber seriously, having real sit-downs and trying to collaborate on moving Vallejo forward, on creating sustainable revenue, on helping businesses grow in the city of Vallejo. I want to see more work and less chumminess, less events.
Thank you. Pippin?
Thank you very much for this question. So when I ran for council in 2013, I was chair of the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things I ran on was that I would create the Business Retention and Expansion Program, which we did in 2015. And so through that program, every single month, myself and a staff member from the Economic Development Department, as well as rotating between one of the 4 chambers of commerce and our Economic Vitality Commissioners, we go visit the businesses at their sites, find out how they're doing, what we can do to help them be more successful. If they're looking to expand, how do we help them expand here in Vallejo so we don't lose them to neighboring cities? And what businesses do they work with that would benefit from being here in Vallejo so that we can go after them, the low-hanging fruit, the ones that we're most likely to attract?
Okay, we're at the end, and I'm going to ask a question. And my question is very simple. The forum after us is school board forum. Are you staying to watch that school forum? And if yes, why are you staying? If no, why should we take that you don't think education is important? And I will give you 15 seconds. Okay, shall we start with Jess? Are you staying for the forum? And if not, why? And can we take that as an indication that education is not a priority?
Education is extremely important to me, and I support Measure S. But I have a commitment at St. Vincent's right after this that I committed to a while ago, and Father Emanuele is gonna kill me. But we need to work on education. Absolutely, very, very important.
Vincent?
Education is highly important. All my kids are educated, and I think I'm not educated, but they are. So that's a financial thing. But I want to stay, but I have my 4 grandkids, and it's my time to have them. And I like everybody here, but I do like my grandkids more.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you. I also have that commitment, unfortunately, at St. Vincent's. I would love to stay. And I also have another appointment right after that. It's appointment after appointment. I am paying attention to the school board, very close attention, and I do support Measure S. It's magical thinking to think that the buildings can fix themselves, so we need to invest in our kids.
Thank you. Hakeem?
I also have the prior commitment, but that's a great question, though. I love that question, man. This is off the, right there, great question. So I will not be staying, but I will be watching. I try to tune in. I watch the school board debates. I also tune into the school board. I volunteered, so I'm paying attention. But answer your question. Great question.
Yeah, education is absolutely important. I did make it to the St. Vincent's event right before this one, and I'm very glad that it's being recorded so that we can watch it at a later point in time. I am going to be going door to door to voters' doors this afternoon. We only have so much time to reach out to them, so I think that's important.
Okay, everybody? Oh, closing statement. Oh, yes, I was about to let you go. Oh, my gosh, closing statements. Okay, closing statements, you have 2 minutes, unrehearsed, relaxed. Tell us the truth. We want to know you. Jess, would you like to start?
So my family and I came to Vallejo in the late 70s, and we've lived there ever since. I love our country just like you do, so I served in the United States Navy for 25 years. I love our city just like you do, so I've been serving in the Vallejo City Council for 6 years now. I have experience. You kind of learn on the job for a couple of years, but after 6 years, you really know the job. And I believe that I can really help take our city to the next level, but I will need your vote to make that happen. Coming back to council is not automatic. That's why I'm working hard. And all I can do is ask you to consider me and support me. I would really like to come back for one more term. And hopefully I'm one of your choices come November 6th. Thank you.
Vincent?
Well, I'll be very brief. I don't think I'll need the whole time slotted to me. Haven't been a lifelong resident of Vallejo, but I've been here for a long time. And I like the city. I love the city. I love my neighborhood. I think I have a great neighborhood. I'm not interested in anything statewide, national, anything along those lines. I don't want to hold any other offices. I've never been political. I never want to be involved in politics. But when you see the same thing here over and over and over and it never changes, you have to step in and make a change, or you're just part of the problem. I do not want to be part of the problem. I want to be the solution to the problem. I want everybody out there to know that if you elect me and put me in this seat, it's your seat. I will work for you, for my voters, not anybody else. Only the people that vote for me will get my time. I'm not trying to get any higher office, nothing national. I don't want anybody's money. I only want your vote. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you. Thank you so much for Citizens for Vallejo for hosting this forum. Very informative. Great questions. A little bit of the hot seat up here. So I got involved. I moved to Vallejo and got involved in politics when the city proposed a liquefied natural gas plant back in 2002. And I thought, what is going on? Why is the city doing this? And so we organized together and defeated it. And then I started looking at city finances. I was at the AIDS Foundation, the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, for 14 years. I was their budget director, managing $25 million budgets. I oversaw building an AIDS treatment hospital in Kigali, Uganda. Kampala. And also, I confused them because I went to Rwanda for another program. So I understand money, and there are choices, hard choices to make. And so I looked at the city's budget and wondered and realized, actually, why they wanted the liquefied natural gas plant. Because $100 million of Navy money had left in 1996, and they were desperate, and they were looking for anything grasping at straws. And then I wondered, why are they approving these contracts that we can't afford? You know, if you're committing to expenses, you have to have revenue to pay for them. And we discovered binding interest arbitration. And I actually was a part of CFV back then. So we helped get the word out about binding interest arbitration. Anybody who says they're a business person who's unequivocally against binding interest arbitration is not a business person, because you don't have a third-party person decide how to spend your money. This money needs to be decided how it's spent by the city council, not an outside entity. And one of the questions on the Napa Solano Labor Council endorsement questionnaire was, do you support binding interest arbitration? I'm willing to share mine publicly and post it on my website page, and I hope all the other candidates will. It's really about, for me, it's all about transparency, making sure that the community understands why we're making the choices that we make. And we can't have people say, I need more information, without saying why. Why do you need more information? That was always a frustration when I was on the other side of the dais, and it sometimes is now. Thank you.
Hakeem?
So thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you for Citizens of Vallejo for putting this on. My name is Hakeem Brown. I am a Vallejo native. I grew up here. I went to school here. I care about this community. That's why I'm running. That's why I started Neighborhood Rising, which focuses on bringing resources to impoverished areas of Vallejo. We have been doing that for a very long time, all throughout parts of Vallejo. That's why I volunteer at Vallejo Public Schools. That's why I provide scholarships. I care about this community. I think that we have spent the last 20 years playing the blame game, and it's time we moved forward and started working together to move this city forward. We are at a crossroads. The question is everyone satisfied with status quo, quite frankly? Are you satisfied with the growing amount of homeless people on the street? Are you satisfied with our kids not having the youth programs and things they need to succeed? Are you satisfied with rising rents? Are you satisfied with our seniors and senior housing? Are you satisfied or are you not? Because I'm not satisfied. I think that we can do better. I think that instead of looking for boogeymen in the room, we need to look at ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. It is about results and accountability, not coming up with who we're going to blame next year or the year after or the year after. Now is the time to move the city forward, and we need leadership to do that. I am a leader who breaks the mold, I think, in Vallejo. We haven't seen that in many years. I'm not beholden to anyone. I'm going to put the people first. I am not a boss or a puppet to anyone, and I think that people have seen that. I'm going to stand up for what's right. I'm going to speak the truth, and I'm going to hold myself accountable and the rest of City Hall accountable to you, the people of Vallejo, not to special interest groups, not to who's screaming the loudest, not to who's playing the blame game, but to you, the people. That's why I'm running, and that's why I'm hoping that I can count on your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Pippin?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to all of you and answer these great questions. And I'd like to share with you that I am president of the North Bay Division for the League of California Cities. And through that organization, I've worked very hard to collaborate with cities all across the state and other elected officials to protect local control and seek funding for important issues such as streets and roads maintenance and repair and homelessness and other such endeavors. And because of my hard work, I am proud to announce that I have been endorsed by Congressman Mike Thompson, Senator Bill Dodd, Assemblymember Tim Grayson, and Jim Frazier, as well as our county supervisors Aaron Hannigan and Jim Sparing. As a graduate of the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley, economic development is extremely important to me. And through that endeavor, being able to grow our revenues so that we can provide more services to our residents and improve public safety. And I believe because of that hard work that I have received the endorsement of the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Vallejo Police Officers Association and our local firefighters. As a realtor, I have worked hard to promote homeownership and facilitate homeownership for our residents, and I believe because of that hard work, I've received the endorsement of the Association of Realtors. As a mother of 3 girls, inspiring and empowering girls and young women is very important to me. And so I have created a clinic that I do once a year in partnership with the women's soccer team, the California Storm, which is made up of young ladies from all over the world, to come to Vallejo and work with our girls to show them women in sports, to open their mind to other opportunities. And they also get to hear from a physician about healthy eating and how to prevent sports injuries. And my sponsors are there to showcase women in leadership roles within their organization. I appreciated your support in 2013, and I hope that I can count on your support this year to continue doing the work I've been doing.
Thank you. Would you like to clap for everybody? They did a lovely job. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're done.